A wonderful morning to everyone who has joined today. From ManageEngine family, we would like to extend our warm welcome and sincere thanks to all our customers, partners, and users who are interested in our solutions. Endpoint management and security is one of the main focus areas of ManageEngine. Let me introduce myself. My name is Senthil, and I'm a product specialist with ManageEngine for over 6 years. I take care of endpoint management products, including Desktop Central. I'm a seasoned technical support engineer, assisting customers in their implementation, consultation, and troubleshooting in case of any challenges. In today's webinar, we will be focusing on endpoint management solutions, which has different product portfolios under management and security. I would like to give a brief note about the products which are present under endpoint and security. We have tools like Vulnerability Manager, Patch Manager, Browser Security, Device Control, OS Deployer, Mobile Device Management, which are taking care of their own native requirement as a standalone tool. Whereas Desktop Central is a complete unified endpoint management tool, which has all these features under a single roof. Rather, I would say Desktop Central is a suite of all these products supported under one web console. Apart from this, if you have a major requirement for managing only third-party application, I would recommend Patch Connect Plus. Patch Connect Plus is a simple component which can be installed in SCCM and deploy third-party patches just through SCCM. Our organization has completely adopted a remote work culture. This can be challenging for IT admins who now have to consider various factors before initiating a patch task for the distributed workforce. Some of those factors are bandwidth constraint, keeping the end users informed about the patch task, time constraint while applying these patches, reboot schedule, and troubleshooting. Let us take a look on how we can include these factors and create a patch routine to suit the work from home scenario. I'm considering a live example to understand the work from home scenario better. It would be easier for us to correlate these examples as we suggest multiple methods to manage and patch the endpoints remotely in the upcoming slides. John, one of our loyal customers, who is managing a chain of hotels in multiple locations and managing over 10,000 computers in his network, which is spread across the globe. As we can see from the picture, each remote office comes with its own requirement in terms of number of endpoints, bandwidth, and the more of connectivity. So the ID team now has to figure out ways to test the newly released patches, deployed periodically to all the endpoints and monitor these endpoints. Let's take a look at how John can handle both the situation with Desktop Central features. There are two types of users John will have to cater to. One, users who connect to the Desktop Central server via a VPN, and the users who will connect over the internet. We will be discussing more about this in the upcoming slides. We will also be discussing about enabling, managing, and securing the distributed workforce. As you see, you can manage LAN and WAN devices. We shall secure them by performing vulnerability and patch management. Once again, I welcome you all to the Desktop Central training program. In today's session, we will be specifically discussing on handling patch management with respect to the distributed workforce. They are categorized into work from home machines and back to office machines on the example stated with John's team as reference. Let us take a look on the overview of our training schedule. We are on week 1 of Series 6, which is patch management. This is one of the modules of our endpoint management and security suite. All these sessions will be recorded and made available in the below mentioned website, which is manageengine.com/EMS/free training. All the registered participants will receive an email with the recorded training video. If you are interested in the upcoming training sessions, please use the same link to register. You can also attend our free training series and claim your certificate on completing the series of courses. Patch management for distributed workforce. Before we start the training, I would want to quickly take you through the agenda for the day. At first, we will have an overview of what is patch management and its features, followed by its architecture in understanding how Desktop Central works. Following this, we will be discussing about the effective ways in which you shall manage endpoints which are distributed in various geographical locations. We will also be discussing about the strategic planning in managing these endpoints and network access control, concluding the session with most frequently asked questions with answers. During the last webinar, most of the customers have raised valuable questions. We have collated those information and added them into our today's question and answer session, and I will be explaining you in detail. During the training session, if you come across any questions, feel free to use the chat option to chat with our expert team. We will collect all the questions raised during this session, and they will be also published for the larger audience. And we will be using the Desktop Central build version 10.0.675 for this presentation, and this application supports all the browser. So here comes an important question. What is Desktop Central? Desktop Central is a unified endpoint management solution that ensures all your endpoints are secure and enable the users to use them effectively for business. A popular research analyst called Forrester defines UEM as products that provide a centralized policy engine for managing and securing employee laptops and mobile devices from a single console. In unified endpoint management, you can manage endpoints in a traditional IT management fashion. This includes patch management, application management, configuration, OS deployment, tools for troubleshooting and automate the day-to-day routine management activities. Similarly, endpoints can also be managed with modern management. All the modern operating systems support the modern management. It supports features like geo-tracking, geo-fencing for your laptops, and distribute store applications, profile distribution to enforce restrictions, operating system reset and recovery. Can you guess the popular operating system when I say modern operating system? Yes, Windows 10. Windows 10 is a classic example in which we can manage both traditional and modern management. Desktop Central can manage both the worlds of traditional and modern from a single web console. Hence, with Desktop Central, unified endpoint management solution, you will be able to manage desktops, laptops, mobile phones, and tablets, including servers, point-of-sale devices, and browsers, all from a single web console. Awards and recognition. Desktop Central is recognized for Best Unified Endpoint Management Tool of 2019 as reviewed by customers and Gartner Peer Insights Customer Choice Award. We are recognized for Unified Endpoint Management and Magic Quadrant for the second consecutive year, and we are recognized for both traditional and modern management. And these are the features that you can leverage when you are using Desktop Central as a unified endpoint management solution. We have patch management, which takes care of operating system and third-party application patching. We have application management, asset management, and configurations. You can manage other functions, including mobile device management for iOS, Android, Windows, and Chromebooks. And then we have modern management, which is for Windows and Mac machines. You can enable the functions like geo-tracking and geo-fencing for your laptops, and you can perform complete or corporate wipe. You can also put them on kiosk mode, distribute store applications, and manage profile distribution. Now, these are all the features that are offered within the Unified Endpoint Management Desktop Central Suite. Ever wondered what are the components that you need to run this application? There are essential as well as optional components. The Desktop Central Server is the central component that you will need to install, which provides the interface to the management console. The agent is also an essential component. You need the agent to be installed in all the machines that you are planning to manage. There is another component called Notification Server. This is an interesting component. We will talk more about this once we get into the product. When we look on the optional components, we have Distribution Server, which serves as a repository for patches, softwares, scripts that you have deployed to the machines in the remote office. We can create unique replication policies for each location as per the bandwidth requirement. Then we have Secure Gateway Server. This is useful if you are going to manage machines that are not part of your LAN or connecting over the internet. In case if you want to have high availability, you can make use of the failover server. This is separately licensed. Moreover, you can also use a language pack to list the web console in your preferred language. We support 3 operating system platforms for now: Windows, Mac, and Linux. Please find the list of supported operating system on the screen. The application server runs on Windows platform, but you can manage the endpoints with Windows or Mac and Linux operating systems. In case you have any questions, you can always reach out to our support. Please refer the email address shown at the bottom of the screen, desktopcentral-support@manageengine.com. Desktop Central is running on a client-server model, which means you need to have the agent installed in all your endpoints in order to manage them. So to facilitate agent installation, we recommend 3 methods. One is via group policy, a startup script in your Active Directory, and get the agents automatically installed. We do have automated agent installation directly from the web console. You can add multiple domains and choose the machines from those domains and push the agent from the web console to get them automatically installed. We also have scripts that you can use to install the agents. Alternatively, you can download the agent manually and execute the setup directly on the machine, and it should then automatically report back to the server. And we will be talking about agent installation in greater detail in our upcoming training sessions. If you are interested, please subscribe to the upcoming training. And now we are stepping into the actual core of this webinar, which is patch management. We offer support for 1,000+ applications in Desktop Central that includes Windows, Mac, and Linux, both security or non-security patches. And we also support 500+ unique third-party applications. You shall navigate to the below URL and identify each and every application that are supported within Desktop Central. Based on the use cases, a lot of customers had questions on which updates are supported by Desktop Central Patch Management. We support security-only updates, monthly rollups, cumulative updates, feature pack updates, optional updates, definition updates, and the automatic handling of service stack updates. We do support the extended security updates for the end-of-life operating systems like Windows 7, 2008, 2008 R2 servers. When it comes to server patching, we support patching for Windows servers and Linux servers with security and non-security updates. As you all know, the latest feature pack, which is currently on most of the machines, is Windows 10 2.0H2. So once a feature pack is released by Microsoft, service or support will be available for 18 months to 30 months based on the edition of Windows 10 released. You will be able to automate all these feature pack deployment with Desktop Central. You will be seeing more information about the feature pack deployment as well as how to automate the process under questions module. Full patch approach recommended by Microsoft. Let us take an overview on how Microsoft recommends patching for customers' environment. As you all know, second Tuesday of every month is considered to be the Patch Tuesday for Microsoft. During this time, Microsoft releases a lot of security and non-security updates. Most of the customers considers only the security updates and ignore the non-security updates. As you can see in this image, this is how Microsoft test and deploy patches in their testing environment, whereas this is how it's being actually tested in customer environment. We would always recommend to give high priority to critical security updates, but post that, at least on third week or fourth week, we recommend you to deploy all the required patches in order to achieve the fully patched recommended state of Microsoft to keep your environment healthy. Let us take an overview of patch management architecture. Whenever a patch is released, it will be made available in the vendor sites. Our crawler team repeatedly probes the internet to draw the vulnerability information from the vendor sites. Once the download is completed, the patches will be tested in our environment. We have a wide range of testing environment from Windows XP to Windows 2019 servers, and for Mac and Linux. We also test the third-party application patches as well. The testing involves whether the patches has been successfully installed, and the compatibility and the applicability check of the patches will be tested during this process. Then it will be published to the central patch repository. Please be informed that we populate only the patch information like KB number, download URL, and the applicability logic of the patches, which are released in the Microsoft baseline for the current month. The Desktop Central server running in the customer environment subscribes to the central patch repository to download the vulnerability database periodically. Once the process is completed, the client machines will be scanned in order to identify the missing patches. After identifying the missing patches, Desktop Central server directly downloads the required patches from the vendor site, and the managed computers, based on from where they are connected, they can be allowed to download the patches from the Desktop Central server or directly from the internet. We have those options enabled with Desktop Central. However, you will have the controls to define deployment date, and time. Now let us take a look at how the endpoints can be managed in a distributed workforce scenario. As we have mentioned in the example that there are two types of users John would have to cater to. Let's analyze them one by one. Patching roaming users. Firstly, we will look at the users who connect over the internet, or the so-called roaming users. There are two ways in which these users can be managed. One is through the Secure Gateway server. The domain users can connect to the Secure Gateway server. Thereby, you don't have to expose the Desktop Central server to the internet, and all the communication between the agent and the Desktop Central server occurs through the Secure Gateway server. I'm going to take you to the web console of Desktop Central and show you how to configure the Secure Gateway server. This will prevent the exposure of Desktop Central server directly to the internet by serving as an intermediate between WAN agents and Desktop Central server. So that is ManageEngine Desktop Central Web Console. I am navigating to Admin and Secure Gateway Server. Admin, Security Settings, Secure Gateway Server. Configure and download the exe to install in the DMZ zone. By configuring this, we have now secured the communication between the Desktop Central server and the WAN agents. After you configure the Secure Gateway server on your DMZ, you shall navigate to Admin and navigate to Server Settings, NAT Settings, to configure the Secure Gateway server's FQDN in here, allowing Desktop Central server to cater the needs of roaming agents through Secure Gateway server. The second category of the roaming users are the work from home users who connect via internet. Most of the remote offices will be configured with distribution server to mediate the primary Desktop Central server and the agents. And thus, the distribution server will always be configured within the local network. Hence, Exposing the distribution server is not a best practice. Still, you will be allowed to change the mode of communication for the remote offices. Let me explain you how to achieve from the web console. Navigate to Agent and Remote Offices. Create a new remote office or modify the existing remote office. And you can modify the mode of communication from direct connection to the distribution server and vice versa. By changing these configurations, we shall achieve managing the work from home users connected via VPN effectively. But now, the entire workforce is using VPN bandwidth to connect to the desktop central server. On an unplanned patch deployment process, the entire VPN and the internet bandwidth might be completely utilized, resulting in bandwidth overhead, and even other business critical activities might be interrupted. Considering the work from home situation, we can solve this by carefully selecting patches and excluding the bulk updates like feature pack updates. Using direct download for the work from home machines. Desktop Central offers a feature called direct download. This is to conserve bandwidth for the above mentioned VPN users. The agents can now directly download the patches from the internet without any dependency from the Desktop Central server. There are some prerequisites to enable the direct download. Please ensure you're running the latest build version of Desktop Central and push out a simple configuration to allow the VPN-connected work-from-home endpoints to download the required patches directly from the internet without any dependency of the Desktop Central server. We have a screenshot explaining you how to deploy the configuration to enable the direct download method. We have also defined the options to enable this for Mac operating systems as well. And just to show you, I'm navigating to the Desktop Central server, navigating to threats and patches, deployment, disable automatic updates, enable agent to directly download the patches, create configuration, define the targets, and deploy. So once you're deployed, the respective work from home laptops will then be directly downloading the patches from the internet without the dependency of Desktop Central server. In this way, you can avoid the bandwidth overhead of your VPN bandwidth of the corporate organization. Back to Office. So there are certain things that an administrator should look for when the machines are back to Office. Quarantining the non-compliant machines, updating the unpatched applications, deploying the feature pack if they are outdated, because you might have not deployed the feature pack updates when the machines are in work from home, as it is a large upgrade package, and deploying packages based on the user's availability. We are going to discuss the situation one by one. Strategic patch management for the back to office machines. Previously, we have seen how to manage the endpoints during the work from home scenario, and now we shall create a patch routine for back to office machines. The first objective will be enabling network access control for the non-compliant machines and identifying critical applications to patch them in priority. And then to create a system restore point for all the work from home machines. Hence, when in case of experiencing any challenges through the patch deployment tasks, we are safe to restore the backup. And that is the primary objective of creating a system restore point. And the next objective is to keep the end users informed about the patching schedule so that they can be prepared. Also, test the newly released patches on the pilot group of machines before deploying them to bulk computers. And based on the testing results, approve the patches and deploy them to highly vulnerable systems and to generate reports for all the above mentioned activities. Network access control is used to tighten the network security by restricting the endpoints that don't satisfy the compliant requirements of an organization. It enables the system administrator to allow or restrict the access to organization's network for the endpoints that fails to confirm the compliant settings defined by the administrator. Also, please be informed that the network access control module is available in the Desktop Central build version from 10.0.595 and above. As we take a look at this workflow, the administrator creates a policy that defines the compliant status for all the machines in the organization. If any system is found to be non-compliant, the network resources of those systems gets restricted or the system is set to be quarantined. And also the compliant status of the unquarantined machines to which compliance policies have been deployed will be checked every time when there is an IP change. That is, whenever the machine is reconnected to the network, the compliance is rechecked. If the compliance is achieved, or if the agent has been uninstalled, the quarantine status on those systems will be revoked automatically. So let me show you how this can be done in Desktop Central. Here is the step-by-step instructions on how NAC control can be achieved. We are going to download the Trust Agent and extract the zip file to run the quarantine policy generator tool. It is an exe which provides you an interface where you can define your software checks, service checks, and the custom checks. Please note that this tool requires .NET 4.0 to be installed as a prerequisite. I'm just opening my desktop where I have downloaded the Trusted Agent and the Quarantine Policy Generator tool. I've extracted that zip file and running the Quarantine Policy Generator. As you can see, I have already downloaded the Quarantine Policy Generator tool. Setting up the policies explained in detail here on how to add software checks, service checks, and custom checks. Please be informed that the keyword should be unique. Identify the application and must not clash with the name of other applications. The system administrator can set the communication restrictions by choosing to allow or restrict access to the internet or intranet under quarantine settings. Let's say I'm going to choose 7-zip as the software. And if that is not exists, I want the machines to be blocked out of all network access from my internet and intranet. You can even have a service defined and achieve the same restrictions. If the system is found non-compliant, the following quarantine measures can be undertaken. You can choose to block all the network access or choose to block intranet access in the range that you desire. You can also set the domains or IP addresses that you wish to allow quarantined machines to access. Further, you can also set to automatically revoke the quarantine when the quarantined machine loses connectivity to all the Heartbeat machines. Once you have defined the policies for the endpoint, click on the Generate New Policy and save the file as quarantine.json. It needs to be saved as quarantine.json for the test agent to recognize it. So as you can see, I have already created quarantine.json. When prompted to update the zips, give S as the option and update zips automatically. Otherwise, you will have to manually add the quarantine.json in Trust Agents. Let me open the web console and help you how to deploy these NAC controls into your organization. Navigate to Configurations, Script Repository, and you can add the script manually by uploading those dependency files where I have already added all those devices. With this, you can proceed to deploy the script, selecting TA deployer uninstaller, or EPS tester. After deploying the configuration, if a machine is found to be non-compliant, based on the quarantine.json, the machine's network communication will be restricted. To know the quarantine status of a managed endpoints, add the executable EPS tester as a script in the DC server repository to all the managed endpoints. The configuration status will show success if the system is quarantined, and the reason for quarantining the system will be shown in the remarks section. If the configuration status shows failed, it means that the system is non-configured. For more information about network access control, please do reach out to the support, and we will be able to explain you better. So that is a screenshot where you can access the controls and deploy. When you generate new policy, it may ask you to generate the deployable zips, and we recommend to choose yes in order to add these controls automatically into the dependency files. Create system restore point for BTO endpoints, back to office endpoints. Let me take you to the web console and help you how to enable the system restore points. Navigate to configurations and to the script repository. Under the templates, you can search for system restore. You have the options to enable system restore and disable system restore. Add them to repository. I have already added enable system restore to the repository, so I can find them here. As same as deploying any script, you can proceed to deploy the enable system restore point script to all the machines and define a new system restore point. Priority patching. And our next agenda is to identify the critical applications to patch. In order to identify the critical application patches, you shall navigate to patches, missing patches, filter for critical, and with various patch type filters. Let's navigate to threats and patches, and patches. This will show you the list of missing patches in your organization, which are missing for each and every machine in your organization. And we do have the filters enabled. You can have the filters obtained for severity, critical, important, moderate, or you can have multiple filters configured with and or OR logic to define the expected results and proceed to deploy those high critical patches to your machines. You can filter them based on release date, after the past Tuesday of January or February. Yes. In this way, you can apply and get the filters done, and the list of patches will be listed here. You can simply select them and click on install patch to proceed with deploying the priority patches. Test and approve the critical patches. Before you do any sort of patching, we need to ensure that the patches are tested and approved to be safe for production environment. I will take you to the web console to help you on how to test the patches before you deploy them to your production machines. Trust threat and patchments, navigate to deployment, and test and approve. By default, the product comes up with this option enabled. Automatically approve the patches without testing, which means we are testing the patches before we release it to our customers. When Microsoft releases a bunch of patches on Patch Tuesday, we have a wide range of testing environment in our organization. We will be performing the testing of all those patches, and based on the testing results, we will be releasing the patch information to our customers. And for enterprise customers, we would recommend to rely or create their own testing setup to test and deploy the patches into their pilot machines and proceed to approve those patches to deploy them to the production machines. So you have the option to either rely on our testing results or proceed with your own testing and approval of the patches. Once you modify this method, you can then proceed to create a test group, define the group, and define what patches you need to automatically install into those test machines, security updates, non-security updates, service packs, feature packs, anything based on your convenience. And you can also test antivirus updates, third-party updates, and driver updates. Currently, we are supporting audio, video, and networking drivers, so you can test driver updates as well. And after testing, you can automate the approval process, automatically approve the patches after, let's say, 5 days. Meanwhile, in these 5 days, you can monitor your test machines for any instability or known issues. If you do not find any, let the approved patches flow through the automate patch deployment task. The automate patch deployment task has the intelligence to choose only the approved patches, so that we recommend to target your production machines under automate patch deployment tasks. Let me create an automate patch deployment task for Windows. The task is categorized into 4 sections. Define the targets, choose your domain or OU, sites, customized groups, anything. And you can use the filter to drill down to choose a smaller group of computers according to your own convenience. After defining the target machines, define the deployment policy. When, at what time, you would want the patches to be installed. Working with millions of customers, ManageEngine could understand what could be an ideal policy of an enterprise organization. We provide you some predefined policies like deploy during business hours, but do not reboot the machines. Deploy during non-business hours, but force shut down the machine after deploying the patches, or deploy any time at the earliest and not consider the reboot. So you can rely on any of these predefined policies, or you can create one on your own. If your organization deployment policy is, say, something you need to install the patches on Saturday, 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., you can create your own policy and define that policy to proceed with patch management. And then selecting the applications. It's exactly the same criteria what we have selected under test and approve. Choose the updates, whatever you have already tested, so that they might have got approved and considered by automate patch deployment task for installation into your production machines. Third-party updates. You have a customized option here with more granular level of control. What applications needs to be updated? Patch all applications except, let's say, Java would be one of them. So we provide you all the list of Java supported by ManageEngine. If you would want to see what are all the list of Java that is running in your organization, enable this option, and that will filter down the list of Java running in your organization and making it easier for you to choose. So once chose, these applications will be excluded from patching so that you can avoid any instability issues which are dependent on Java. In the same way, you can exclude patching certain Microsoft applications like SQL servers, Office Exchange servers, and anything. We do support the antivirus updates and driver updates for your production machines as well. And then configure email notifications. Enable this and type in your administrator's email ID separated by comma. You can have multiple email address and save. An automate patch deployment task is ready and fine to go. This task will perform a patch scan once in 24 hours of whatever the missions that are targeted. Based on the scan results, the patches will be downloaded, but the deployment will proceed as per the deployment policy that you have configured. So you're completely automating the scanning, downloading, and deployment with automate patch deployment task. With the distributed workforce, the challenge is to plan the deployment based on users' availability. Before that, I will explain you about the feature-packed deployment. Microsoft releases the feature-packed deployment for Windows 10 operating systems, and the recent one is with 2004 and 20H2. Desktop Central supports patch management for feature-pack deployments. For the Professional Edition, we completely automate the feature-pack deployment. For the Enterprise Edition, Microsoft recommends to download the ISO package from the Volume Licensing Center and add those packages into Desktop Central repository to proceed to automatically deploy them to all the Windows and Enterprise machines in your organization. And then the challenge is to deploy patches based on the user's availability. We have an option within Desktop Central to notify you about the active users or the active time of users who work from home scenario. With this custom reporting, we have supported the key details like domain name and the remote office details associated with the active user, which will eventually allow an administrator to define the patch deployments for these active users. The benefits of enabling this report method is that to learn the pattern of users' active time in a day to plan patch deployment activity, even though the users on the work from home scenario. And even you can just export this list and import to create a custom group directly and target those custom groups to proceed with patch deployment. Patch database sync and scanning process. Based on the schedule, the Desktop Central Server will reach out to the online patch database to collect the latest vulnerability information. Once the sync process is completed, based on the 90-minute refresh policy that we have discussed earlier, for the next 90 minutes, any machines from John's IT environment, which is reaching out to Desktop Central Server, will be performed a patch scan automatically. As you can see, right from the sync and scan, both these tasks has been automated, and all you need to do is just configure the proxy and patch database settings and ensure everything will be taken care automatically. Create a new set of policies for work from home endpoints. I will take you to the web console and explain you in detail about how to define the deployment policies for various scenarios. For now, I will concentrate on allowing the end user to skip the deployment or allow the user to schedule the reboot policy. And we are also working on a feature to allow end user to apply the patch, something like self-service portal to allow the end user to proceed with the patch management for every month automatically. I will navigate to the web console. Threats and patches, deployment policies. Creating a new deployment policy. This is categorized into 4 sections. We're going to concentrate on 2 sections. Deployment schedule will allow you to restrict and plan at what time the patches needs to be installed into your machines. Let's say second week of every month, all the days of second week, only between 9 a.m. to 12. So you can completely restrict the patch deployment time of the underlying targets where you will be associating this policy to. After you created this policy, you can associate this policy to any automate patch deployment task or to a test and approve task. And then reboot policy. We have options to enable the agent to automatically reboot the machines after completing the patching, or you can define the agent to not reboot the machine. Let's say for the work from home users, you can leverage the option to allow the end users to define rebooting their machines. Postpone reboot. Choosing the postpone reboot option allows you to provide the options to allow the end users to define when they can reboot the machines. If the end user is busy, he can choose any defined options here to postpone that reboot to a later time. And we also have an option to force reboot after a certain window. Let's say if an end user is not rebooting a machine after a prolonged time, you can define it as, let's say, 78 hours. After 78 hours of prolonged postpone, the end user may not be able to further postpone the reboot. He will have to save and close all his open applications and then proceed to reboot his machine. I will be showing you the prompt of how the agent will notify the end user in upcoming slides. Here, allow user to skip the deployment, skip the reboot. So the agent will notify the end user with this prompt on the bottom right corner of the screen with 2 options, restart now and restart later. If the end user is busy, he can click on postpone restart and choose any option to postpone that restart to a later time. Let's say he chooses 4 hours, and after 4 hours, agent will again prompt that the machine has to go for a reboot. If the end user is free at that moment, he can click on restart now to proceed rebooting the machine. Or if he is still busy, he can still proceed to postpone that reboot to a later time. He can also proceed to schedule that to a different day as well. If you have enabled the option user-defined time, so that the user can define his own time, his own convenient time to reboot the mission. And then another example to define the policy for servers in your office. Deploy between 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. If the servers are in shutdown state, wake up the servers and deploy the patches. Force reboot except servers. The same. Deploy all the week of a month and all the days of a week. 6 a.m. to 9. Reboot policy was requested to skip the reboot if the machine does not require a reboot. So we can enable or exclude reboot for servers so that the agent has the intelligence to understand whether it is running in a server operating system or a client operating system. If it is running in a server operating system, it will just proceed to deploy the patches based on the schedule. But when performing the reboot policy, it will not reboot the machine as it is running on a server operating system. Whereas the agents running on the client operating system will proceed to reboot the machines. So with deployment policy, you can completely customize and achieve your requirement and completely automate the patch management requirements. This is one another prompt that the agent will notify the end user for the forced reboot. Patch management at a glance. Whatever the features that we have seen so far, Patch Manager module of Desktop Central is standalone, which is not dependent on WSUS or SCCM. We have our own baseline detected from Microsoft, Mac, Linux, and third-party applications. So Desktop Central can scan the machines on its own and proceed to deploy the patches. And it supports patching for servers and workstations. It supports cross-platform support like Windows, Mac, Linux, including the third-party applications. It approves test and approve automation with automate patch deployment, whatever we have seen so far. Flexible deployment policies, we have just completed that with a great example. Declining patches and filters and reports. Let me explain that in detail. Let's say you're deploying a latest Google Chrome update into one of your machine, and you're finding that your machine is going, the Google Chrome application is going unstable. And you never wanted to deploy that Google Chrome update to any other machines through Desktop Central. Simply, you can navigate to Threats and Patches, Patches, Decline Patch. It's simply like blacklisting a patch. Select, you will be choosing the targets to whatever the missions you need to blacklist these patches. Choose the patches or applications or family. We have granular level of control on what entity you need to decline. You can select applications, choose applications. All the list of applications running in your organization will be listed here. You can simply choose or search to choose, and next, save. Those applications are going to be declined, which means they will not be shown as required for those respective machines. So even accidentally, you will not be ending up with deploying those infected patches to any other machines. Decline patch will be really helpful for you in getting these scenarios exit. And later, whenever needed, you can modify this task and undecline those applications to proceed to deploy the same updates to all the other machines. Filters and reports. Let me get back to the web console and help you with reports. With reports and schedule reports, it can completely automate your requirement. The two primary functionalities of a schedule report is that robust customization and a complete automation. Define a name for the task. You have a bunch of options here to define what kind of reports you need. Let's say with patch reports, I want managed systems report, scan report, missing patches report. You can choose as many as reports, whatever you would like to collect from Desktop Central, and define what kind of report you need, PDF, XLX, or CSV. I'll go with CSV so that you can manipulate the CSV further to create a pivot and to submit that to your management. To email ID, subject, and configure scheduler. This is where you're going to automate this reporting. Configure the scheduler. You have the options to automate it once, daily, weekly, or monthly. You can even automate this for on alternative days or on weekdays, alternative weeks. For this example, I will choose every Monday morning 9 a.m. I want the report to be automated. And that satisfies the complete automation with reporting. So where are we going to achieve the robust customization? Let's say I want the report of scan report. And can you see the filter icon when I hover the cursor? That filter icon will allow you to apply the filters. You can filter them based on operating system, or based on the critical patches, or based on the date the patch gets released. So you have n number of filters. You can add multiple filters with and or logic to apply robust customization to collect the reports whatever you intended to. So yes, scheduled reports with filters allows you to achieve reports that can be directly submitted to your management. Let's get to the Desktop Central architecture and an overview. Desktop Central is an on-premise solution and supports client-server model application. You can have Desktop Central Server hosted in any one of the support operating systems. And this architecture talks to you about how you manage computers in your local area network and with the distributed workforce. When it comes to managing the wide area network, you can manage different remote locations from one console. They can connect either over the internet or using a VPN or MPLS connections. Secure Gateway Server helps to connect the machines that are present in the remote site, which are connected over the direct internet connection, bridges the agent traffic to the Desktop Central Server securely when they connect over the internet. When it comes to remote locations, we have a component called Distribution Server, which is used to throttle bandwidth for the data traffic between the Desktop Central Server and the remote location. Here comes the next important part, which is managing the computers under a closed network. What is closed network? A network which does not have connectivity to internet or limited connectivity is called as closed network. Even if you have a closed network architecture, you can still use Desktop Central to manage your endpoints. In this case, we need to nominate a machine which has internet connection to download the patches from the vendor sites, and then you shall copy the patches to the Desktop Central Server manually. In this way, you will still be able to manage the computers in the closed network. Desktop Central is available as an on-premise solution and also as a native cloud SaaS solution. You can proceed to sign up under desktopcentral.manageengine.com and start the 30 days of free evaluation with Desktop Central right away. In case you're looking to host Desktop Central in any one of the cloud server, you can use AWS or Azure. Desktop Central is also made available in AWS Marketplace and Azure. If you require patch management as a separate product, then we have a standalone tool called Patch Manager Plus in both on-prem and cloud solution. Desktop Central runs primarily on two ports, 8383, which is HTTPS, 8027, which is the TCP protocol, the notification server component. And Desktop Central runs on HTTP port 8020. Notification server is an interesting component which uses the port 8027 to perform all on-demand activities like initiating a patch scan, remote control, etc. We will talk about the uses of this port in the upcoming slides. Desktop Central architecture is scalable to manage different networks and even larger networks using our 90-minute refresh policy. I will explicit this in simple terms. Desktop Central agent communicates with Desktop Central server every 90 minutes. This is called as agent refresh cycle. Two important factors are ensured here. Network is not choked by the agent server communication, meaning bandwidth is not disturbed due to the agent server communication. The performance of the server is not affected at any time. Also, the Desktop Central server has the intelligence to endure systematic streamlined communication from all the agents at regular intervals. If a network of 90 computers for each minute, one computer will reach out to the desktop central server. For the larger network of 9,000 computers, for each minute, 100 computers will reach out to the desktop central server. Using this feature, we ensure a hassle-free communication from agent to server. Let's get to the scenarios and solutions. Do I need a secure gateway server for patching machine and work from home? Yes. The work from home laptops, which are connected via VPN, does not require a secure gateway server. Whereas the laptops that do not have a VPN option shall be managed by configuring a secure gateway server effectively. Local office machine are now at work from home. How do I make them contact desktop central server? As discussed earlier, you can modify the remote office configuration and allow the agent to directly communicate back to the desktop central server, or you can configure a secure gateway server to allow the agents to communicate back to the desktop central server. Is it good practice to expose distribution server? No, not at all. Distribution server is defined to be a LAN component, which you will be installing into your corporate network, into your different regions, different remote offices, to assess the requirements of the underlying machines. Exposing the distribution server to the public internet is more prone to the secure of the desktop central server itself. Is there a way for desktop central to download all necessary patches, then restart only once for end users? Yes, that is the actual design of desktop central patch management configuration. Let's say you define a patch management task to deploy 10 patches to an operating system. Agent will parse the configuration and proceed to download all those 10 patches from the desktop central server repository and install all those 10 patches, and then process the reboot mechanism that you have configured in the deployment policy. So after deploying all the necessary patches, only then the agent is going to perform the reboot mechanism. If defined, missions will be rebooted. If not defined, agents will not reboot the missions. When I exclude or decline a patch, is this removed from the patch management dashboard page? Yes. When you decline or blacklist a patch, those patches will not be considered in calculating the health or the compliance of your organization. And of course, yes, they will not be calculated in the dashboard. So let me explain you that with a quick example from the web console. They are categorized into two, which we have already explained: selective exclusion and permanent exclusion. Selective exclusions are navigate to threats and patches, deployment, automate patch deployment, create a task. Under select applications, when you choose the applications for Windows and third party, you have an option to exclude certain applications. And this is something we consider it as selective exclusions. Only within this automate patch deployment task, these exclusions will be effective. Whereas for permanent exclusion, I hope you remember, it is decline patch. You can decline a patch, and that will be globally declined within Desktop Central based on the targets you define here. You can define a group of computers, or you can define a native group called all computers group. Once you select an all computers group, that is going to be considered all the missions that you are managing under Desktop Central. So by selecting all computer group, if I'm proceeding to decline a patch, that particular application will not be shown as required for any missions under Desktop Central. Even the new missions that you are going to onboard into Desktop Central, they will also not aware that this application is required, because that is globally declined within Desktop Central. And that is something we call as permanent exclusion. Our business applications misbehave occasionally, and I suspect that recent patch deployment could be the cause. How can I roll back a patch? With Desktop Central Patch Management, we officially support rollback for Windows security patches. So you can choose any security updates that already installed into a Windows machine and perform the rollback or uninstall from the Desktop Central Web Console. And you can even uninstall a patch from multiple computers or from all the computers. That is supported. While deploying the patches, I came across below errors on multiple clients. How to get this fixed? These errors are the results of certain actions performed by the Windows installer on the actual operating system. And within Desktop Central, we have defined a read KB article next to these error codes in the remarks section. You can follow the read KB article to proceed to perform the workaround to get resolved with these errors. How do I take a patch status report for a specific group of machines before and after Patch Tuesday? As we have already explained, navigate to Threads and Patches. Patches. From the missing patches, you can create a filter. The filter for release date. And you have a bunch of customization here. A release date before 10 days, before the Patch Tuesday of January, or after the Patch Tuesday of January, or between December and January. You can apply any sort of filters and then filter what are all the patches required for your as per your requirement, and then proceed to choose them to click on Install Patch to initiate a patch deployment task. And if you would like to export that as a report, you can export it right from here in the top right corner. You have an export button. And the same can be completely automated with the schedule reports as well. Reports, schedule reports, create new report, and as explained before, you can apply the filters for the patch release date and achieve the reports according to your own requirement. Let's get into the questions that was discussed on our previous webinar sessions. How can I patch my Windows 10 machine in BYOD setup? Bring your own device setup. With Desktop Central, you need to ensure that whether the Desktop Central agent is installed or not. As that is the first step, proceed to install the Desktop Central agent and ensure that the agent is communicating back to the Desktop Central server. In case of BYOD, they are going to be in a work from home network. So ensure that the secure gateway server is configured with Desktop Central so that you can start patching your BYOD setup. How soon are the patches available to me after being released by Microsoft? As explained when we were going through the test and approve mechanism, ManageEngine has its own testing environment. We test the patches released by Microsoft, Apple, and Linux, even the third-party application vendors. We take at least 15 hours to complete the patches, testing of patches for Windows, because on a typical Patch Tuesday, Microsoft is going to release a bunch of patches. We take at least 15 hours to complete the testing and then release it to our Desktop Central customers. Can we ever reach a green state in patch management? Remember the Microsoft patch recommendation to patch the critical patches initially to all the machines, and then at least at the third week or fourth week, or at least before the next Patch Tuesday, proceed to deploy the less critical patches to all the machines. In that way, you can achieve the green state in patch management. I could see a difference in the patches discovered by DC against WSUS. Against WSUS or Windows Update. Why? In case of Windows 7 or 8.1 or 2008, Windows updates do not show security-only updates as required, but Desktop Central supported the same to achieve compliance. And WSUS detects updates only from its source, but Desktop Central supports patches from varying sources like Windows updates, Microsoft Catalog, and WSUS. And also, Desktop Central do not support superseded patches as they are not required to be installed by Microsoft best practice recommendation. These are the reasons you may find a difference in patches discovered by Desktop Central against WSUS or Windows updates. How are the failed patches handled in test and approve? As explained prior, the failed patches, the test and approve mechanism we follow resemble an enterprise organization production systems. And when a patch is failed, we perform the analysis on the reasons for the failure or to identify whether it causes instability issues and release those patches as not approved. ensuring that non-approved patches are not deployed by the customers. However, for the enterprise customers, we do recommend to create test and approve policies in their setup to ensure testing and deploying the safe patches to their production environment. Is there a way to disable automatic updates of third-party applications like Adobe, Java, etc.? Yes. Kindly navigate to Threats and Patches. Under Deployment, you have an option, Disable Automatic Updates. As you can see, you have a configuration defined for each and every application. We support around 500 plus unique third-party application. All the major enterprise class applications like Adobe Reader, Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox are already supported. So yes, you can disable the native update mechanism for those third-party applications and rely only within Desktop Central for patching those third-party applications. How can I see what are the patches released in this Patch Tuesday cycle and see all the missing systems? As explained before, navigating to patches and applying the filters based on the release date for whatever patches released after Patch Tuesday of January will list out the list of patches along with the list of machines for where they are missing. So from there, you can proceed to identify the list of patches and the list of target machines you need to create a task to. Some patches have the description of reboot may require. Why? Let's say you're installing a security update which updates the DLL that has loaded in one of the more processes that are required by Windows. Or the other important reasons could be the security update is a device driver that is currently being used and that is required by Windows. And these updates cannot be completed while device driver is being used. Hence, only when rebooting the machine during the system startup, these updates will get updated. During this situation, we adopt the reboot requirement tag based on the Microsoft requirement. So whenever you find the reboot required, it means that there are some updates that needs to be configured during the reboot of the operating system. So here comes the end of today's patch management webinar. I would like to thank every one of you for joining this webinar in your busy schedule. You can very well rate this webinar on a scale from 1 to 5, where 5 as the best. You can also spread a word about this webinar as well as about Desktop Central UEM on the below platforms. And the next training will be for Unified Endpoint Security, which is scheduled for February 3, and you can also register for the same. If you are in need of a personalized Desktop Central Unified Endpoint Management demo and assisting you with the best practices on understanding your environment setup, you shall request our chat team experts and they can help you accordingly. Thank you so much. Once again, have a great day ahead.